Every mom or dad knows that awful feeling when they can't keep their kids safe from something scary. Elena Ward felt that fear hit her hard, like a punch to the chest, as she stood on the dusty street. She owed money she couldn't pay, and now she faced a choice no mom should ever have to make. The big, tough cowboy named Colt Brangan came to collect the debt, and Elena had nothing left to give except the most important thing in her life. When she begged him to take her daughter instead of her, the whole town went quiet, waiting to see what would happen. But then, something shocking happened. Instead of picking one of them, Colt put both Elena and her daughter on his horse and rode off. Why did this scary guy suddenly decide to help them instead of taking their money? Before we go on, let us know where you're listening from. And if this story grabs you, hit that subscribe button because I've got something super cool saved for you tomorrow. The sun was just peeking over the mountains when Elena opened her husband Thomas's old journal, hoping it would be the last time. The pages, all worn out, told a story she knew too well. A story of bad choices, growing debts, and dreams that fell apart like old paper. Her husband was always chasing big ideas, thinking the next one would make them rich. Instead, he left her with debts all over 3 counties and people who wanted their money back, getting angrier every week. Elena ran her finger over the last thing he wrote, just 2 days before he died in a terrible accident at the silver mine. "The Prescott deal will change everything," he wrote neatly. "Elena and Maybeth will never need anything again." That promise felt like a bitter joke now, like cold coffee from yesterday. The Prescott deal didn't make them rich. It left them owing more than ever. "Mama," Maybeth's voice called from the kitchen of their tiny cabin on the edge of Coyote Bend. At 14, she acted wiser than her years, probably from watching her mom struggle to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads. "Should I start the laundry?" Elena closed the journal and put it back in the wooden box with Thomas's things. "Not yet, sweetheart. Let's see what today brings." But for the last 3 months, every day brought the same worry. Unpaid bills, and the fear of losing the little they had left. Their cabin sat on 2 acres Thomas bought with borrowed money, thinking it would be worth a lot because it was near the silver mine. Now the mine was closed, the land was worthless, and the bank in Prescott wanted money they didn't have, like asking for the moon. Elena looked out the window at the dusty road leading to town. Somewhere out there, she knew, were men coming for her soon. She'd heard Colt Brangan was riding around, collecting debts for people. Just his name made tough guys nervous. He was super tall, 6 feet 5 inches, with shoulders so wide they could block a doorway. People said he was fair but didn't stop until he got what he was owed, and he could find anyone, anywhere. "Mama, you're holding the curtain really tight," Maybeth said, standing next to her with worry on her young face. The girl had her dad's dark hair, but Elena's green eyes, and those eyes looked too worried for someone so young. Elena let go of the curtain and smoothed it out. "Just thinking, that's all, about Mr. Brangan." The fact that Maybeth knew his name showed how small their town was. In Coyote Bend, news spread like a wildfire, especially about someone like Colt Brangan. Everyone had different stories about him, but some things stayed the same. He collected debts for people all over the area. He was huge and quiet, showing up out of nowhere and leaving as soon as he was done. Some said he used to be a sheriff before something made him take a lonelier job. Others said he was a rancher's son who lost everything in a bad winter and now knew the value of every penny owed. Everyone agreed that when Colt Brangan showed up, you paid what you owed or you were in big trouble. "Mrs. Henderson at the store says he's collected debts from here to Santa Fe," Maybeth said, sitting in a chair next to Elena. "She says he's never mean, just really good at his job." Elena nodded, but that didn't make her feel much better. Good at his job could mean bad news when you had nothing left to give. She'd already sold Thomas's tools, his nice saddle, even her mom's silver necklace. The furniture they still had was just what they needed. 2 chairs, a table, their beds, and an old stove that barely kept them warm. Their cabin was simple but clean, showing Elena's effort to keep things together even when everything else was falling apart. She scrubbed the floors until they shined, fixed the curtains twice, and kept everything neat, like that was the only thing she could control. I've been thinking, Elena said carefully, about what we'd do if we had to leave this place. Maybeth looked up fast. Leave? But this is our home. Home is where we're together, sweetheart. The place doesn't matter as much. They'd talked about this before, but Elena could see fear growing in her daughter's eyes. Maybeth had already lost her dad. Losing their home, too, was almost too much. Elena took her daughter's hand, noticing how much bigger it was now. Soon, Maybeth would be a woman, and Elena wanted so badly to give her more than just debts and disappointment. We could go to Aunt Sarah in Colorado, Elena said, though it didn't sound great, even to her. Sarah had her own family and barely enough to take care of them. Taking in Elena and Maybeth would be tough and might ruin things between them. What about the teaching job in Prescott? Maybeth asked. You said they needed someone for the younger kids. Elena had checked on that job, but it paid so little it would barely cover one person, let alone two. Still, it was a chance to start over somewhere that didn't remind her of Thomas's broken dreams. A noise from the road made them both look at the window. A rider was coming, too far to see clearly, but moving like he knew exactly where he was going. Elena's stomach tightened with worry. Stay here, she told Maybeth, though she knew her daughter would probably peek out anyway. Elena stepped onto the porch, shading her eyes from the sun. As the rider got closer, she saw more details. The horse was a big, strong one, matching the man riding it. He sat easily in the saddle, his hat low against the sun. Even from far away, he looked like he meant business. Elena's hand went to her throat, where Thomas's wedding ring hung on a chain. She'd worn it there since he died, not wanting it on her finger but not ready to take it off completely. That little gold ring was all she had left of their promises. Promises broken by death and debt. The rider was close now, and Elena could see his face under his hat. It was tough, worn by sun and wind, with eyes like a cold winter sky. This was Colt Brangan, and he was just as scary as the stories said. When he stopped his horse about 20 feet from the porch, Elena had to look up to meet his eyes. Mrs. Ward, he said, his voice deep and rough, but not mean. I think you know why I'm here. Elena nodded, afraid her voice would shake. Behind her, she heard the door creak as Maybeth peeked out. Brangan got off his horse with a smooth move that didn't match his huge size. Up close, he was even scarier, not just tall but wide, with hands that looked like they could crush rocks. But there was something about him that seemed strong, not cruel. I'm here for several people you owe money to, he said, pulling a leather folder from his saddlebag. The total is 1432s, plus extra for waiting. That number hit Elena like a slap. She knew the debts were big, but hearing it made her knees wobble. $1,430 might as well have been $14,000. She had no way to pay it. I don't have that kind of money, Mr. Brangan, she said, glad her voice didn't break. I don't have any money. He looked at her for a long time, his pale eyes taking in her worn dress, her patched shoes, and the poor little house. When he spoke, his voice wasn't mean or kind, just straight. Then we need to talk about other ways to pay. Elena felt like the ground was slipping away. She'd hoped she could face this moment bravely, but now she was starting to panic, her breath coming fast as the weight of everything crushed her. Other ways? She asked. The people you owe want their money, he said. If you can't pay with cash, they'll take things like animals, land, or anything valuable. He looked at his papers. Your husband used this land to back one of the loans. The bank is ready to take it unless you can work something out. Elena closed her eyes, feeling all her hope drain away, like water from a cracked bucket. She'd known this day was coming, but it was worse than she'd imagined. Losing their home, the last piece of Thomas and the life they'd built, felt like losing him all over again. When she opened her eyes, Brangan was still watching her, calm but not kind or cruel. He was just a man doing his job, and she was just a problem to solve. How long do I have? She asked. The papers need signing today, he said, but I can give you time to pack your things and figure out where to go. Elena turned and saw Maybeth's face in the window, her eyes wide with fear. Her daughter had heard enough to know what was happening, and it broke Elena's heart again. She'd failed as a wife by not stopping Thomas's bad choices. Now she was failing as a mom by not giving her daughter a safe home. The weight of it all, the huge debt and the hopelessness, finally broke her. Tears she'd held back for months spilled down her cheeks as she stood on the porch of the home she was about to lose. And right then, in her worst moment, Elena made the most desperate choice of her life. She wiped her tears and stood up straight. Deep inside, her love for her daughter pushed away the sadness. She had to find a way to protect Maybeth from Thomas's mistakes. "Mr. Brangan," she said, her voice stronger now even though her hands shook, "what if I could give you something else, something worth more than this land?" Colt Brangan moved a little, his big shadow stretching across the porch. He pulled a shiny silver pocket watch from his vest, glanced at it, and put it back. Elena thought she saw a tired look on his face. "I'm listening," he said simply. Elena's heart pounded as she said the words that would change everything. "Take my daughter instead of the debt. She's young, she's strong, she can work. She's worth more than this land." The silence after her words felt like it covered the whole valley. Even the wind stopped, like the world was holding its breath. Elena heard Maybeth gasp behind the window, but she didn't look back. She kept her eyes on Brangan's face, watching for any sign of what he thought. He stared at her for a long time, his pale eyes hard to read. When he spoke, his voice had a new tone, maybe surprise or disappointment. "You're offering your child to pay a debt?" "I'm offering someone who can work and pay back what's owed," Elena said, her voice shaking with desperation. "She's smart, Mr. Brangan. She can cook, clean, and take care of animals. She's learned all that since her dad died. She's worth more than this land nobody wants." "Mama, no!" Maybeth burst through the door, her face red with shock and hurt. "You can't mean that. You can't give me away." Elena grabbed her daughter's hands, holding them tight. "Listen to me, sweetheart. This is the only way I can keep you safe. If we lose everything, we'll have nothing. At least this way, you'll have a place to sleep and food to eat." "But I want to stay with you." Maybeth's voice broke, tears streaming down her face. "I don't care if we're poor. I don't care if we live in a shack. I just want us to be together." Elena felt her heart waver as she looked into her daughter's eyes. The idea that made her offer this deal suddenly seemed weak and wrong. What kind of mom gives away her child for money? Was this really protecting her, or just another way of leaving her? But the other choice was worse. She'd seen what happened. To women and kids with nothing, how poverty took away their pride and hope until all they had left was trying to survive. At least this way, Maybeth would have a chance. "Please," Elena said, turning to Brangan. "She's all I have to offer. Take her, and the debt is paid." Colt Brangan looked at both of them with his strange, pale eyes. His hand touched his pocket watch again, like he was thinking about something bigger than time. When he moved, it was slow, like he was making a choice that would matter for years. "And what about you, Mrs. Ward?" he asked quietly. "Where will you go?" "That's not your problem," Elena said, though the question scared her. She had no plan beyond saving Maybeth. Her own future was blank, and she couldn't face it. "I see," Brangan said, looking between mother and daughter. "And you think this is best for her?" "It's the only choice I have," Elena said. Something changed in Brangan's face, a small shift she couldn't quite understand. He stepped closer to the porch, so close she had to look up to meet his eyes. Up close, she saw the marks of a hard life on his face, small scars from tough times. "Mrs. Ward," he said, his voice so quiet only she and Maybeth could hear. "What if I said there was another way?" Elena's breath stopped. "What kind of way? What if I took both of you?" His words hung in the air like smoke from a far-off fire. Elena blinked, sure she'd heard wrong. "Both of us?" "The debt was your husband's, but it's on you now," he said. "To me, you're both part of the same deal. The girl shouldn't be away from her mom, and a mom shouldn't have to pick between her kid and surviving." "I don't understand," Elena said weakly. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you both come with me to my ranch. There's work for 2 people and plenty of space. You can work off the debt together as a family." Elena felt the ground shift again, but this time it wasn't like falling. It was something new, maybe hope, but too delicate to trust yet. "Your ranch?" she repeated. 3 days ride. North, he said. It's a working ranch, nothing fancy, but it's got good water and decent land. I've been running it alone for 5 years and I could use help. Maybeth stepped closer to her mom, holding her hand. Together? She whispered. Brangan nodded. Together. Elena's mind raced, trying to make sense of this surprise. It wasn't what she expected when she made her desperate offer. She'd been ready to give up everything for Maybeth, to send her with a stranger for a better life. This was something totally different. What would you want us to do? She asked carefully. Honest work for fair pay, he said. The debt gets paid off over time, and you have a place to stay while you do it. And if we say no? Elena asked. Brangan's face didn't change. Then I take the land, like the bank said, and you're on your own. It wasn't really a choice, Elena realized. It was kindness dressed up as a deal. She looked at Maybeth, whose face showed a mix of fear, hope, and maybe relief. Why? Elena asked suddenly. Why offer this? You don't know us. We're nothing to you. For the first time, Colt Brangan's calm face slipped a little. A shadow of pain crossed his eyes, maybe a memory of something he'd lost. Let's just say I know what it's like to lose family, he said quietly, and I don't see any reason to split up what's left of yours. Elena felt tears coming again, but these were different, not sad, but grateful, like finding kindness, when she expected none. We'll need to pack, she said. Take what matters, Brangan replied. Leave what doesn't. As Elena turned to go inside, she saw Maybeth looking at Colt Brangan like he was some kind of hero. Maybe he was, Elena thought. Maybe they both were. Two people who'd been struggling alone, now getting a chance to move forward together toward something new and hopeful. An hour later, with their few things packed in 2 old bags, Elena and Maybeth stood by Brangan's big horse. Up close, the horse was amazing, with smart eyes and a shiny coat like polished copper. His name's Thunder, Brangan said, patting the horse's neck. He's gotten me through some tough spots. Elena smiled. I guess we're a tough spot, too. I've handled worse, Brangan said, and his tone made her think he meant it. He helped them onto the horse, Elena behind him and Maybeth in front, safe in her mom's arms. It felt weird to be so close to this man who'd scared her just hours ago. But Elena found his steady presence comforting. As Thunder started down the road, Elena looked back at the only home Maybeth had ever known. It looked smaller now, like it could blow away in a strong wind. Maybe this was better, she thought. Maybe some stories need to end so new ones can start. Where are we going? She asked Brangan. Home, he said simply. And the way he said it made Elena think that word might finally mean something again. The sun was turning the sky pink and gold when Thunder reached a hill overlooking Colt Brangan's ranch. Elena gasped at the sight below. The land stretched across a wide valley, with a river running through it like a shiny ribbon. Fields with cattle went on forever, with trees that promised shade in the summer. The ranch house sat on a small hill, looking over everything. It was bigger than Elena expected, made of logs and stone, with a wide porch all around it. Nearby were a barn, a bunkhouse, a corral, and some sheds, all part of a busy ranch. It's beautiful, Maybeth whispered, and Elena agreed. After their tiny cabin, this place felt huge. It's home, Brangan said again, but this time Elena heard a hint of loneliness, like all this beauty somehow made him feel more alone. As they rode toward the house, Elena noticed more details. The place was clean, but it felt empty, like a museum, not a real home. The windows had no curtains, the porch had no chairs, nothing to make it feel lived in. Thunder stopped in front of the porch, and Brangan got off with that same smooth move. He helped Maybeth down first, then offered his hand to Elena. His hand was rough from work, but his touch was gentle. Welcome to the Broken Star Ranch, he said, pointing to the brand on the gate. Elena looked around, seeing the clean but empty feel of the place. How long have you lived here? She asked. 5 years, Brangan said, grabbing their bags from the saddle. Built most of it myself. By yourself? Maybeth asked, her eyes wide. Brangan nodded. Had some help with the big logs, but mostly just me and Thunder. Elena could believe it. The man seemed like he could do anything with his own hands. But there was something else, too. A loneliness that felt like a shield. She wondered what made him build such a nice place so far from others. "Come on," he said, leading them up the porch steps. "Let me show you inside." The inside was just as impressive, with high ceilings, big beams, and a huge stone fireplace. The furniture was nice but plain. A few chairs, a table, just the basics, nothing personal. What hit Elena hardest was the lack of pictures or keepsakes, nothing to show this was a real home. Then she saw an empty silver picture frame on the fireplace mantel, fancy but holding only a blank piece of paper. It made her heart hurt, like it was waiting for a family that never came. "The kitchen's this way," Brangan said, not noticing her staring at the frame. "I've got the basics: stove, icebox. Enough dishes for a few people, though I've never needed them all." Elena followed him to the kitchen, which was clean but plain, like a place where food was made because you had to eat, not because you enjoyed it. "Mr. Brangan," she said carefully, "have you always lived here alone?" He paused, his back to her as he showed her where things were. When he answered, his voice had a hint of sadness. "Not always, but for the last 5 years, yes." Elena wanted to ask more, but his tone said to leave it alone. Instead, she focused on practical stuff. "What do you want us to do?" "What kind of work?" Brangan turned, looking a bit unsure, which surprised her for someone so confident. "I guess I haven't thought it all out," he admitted. "I handle the ranch work myself with some help during busy times. The housework, well, I do that too, but it's not much." Elena looked around the clean but dull kitchen. "When you say housework, you mean I keep things clean, fix what's broken, cook enough to eat, but I'm not great at making a home," he said. Elena felt a spark of purpose. "I could help with that. Cooking, cleaning, making this place feel like a home. And I can help with ranch stuff," Maybeth added excitedly. "I've been helping Mama since Papa died. I can milk cows, gather eggs, all sorts of things." Brangan's face softened, almost like a smile. "I'm sure you can," he said to Maybeth, "but ranch work can be risky. You'd need to learn the rules and follow them exactly." "I will," Maybeth promised seriously. "I'm a great listener." Elena felt warm inside watching her daughter talk to this big, kind man. He spoke to Maybeth like her ideas mattered, not like she was just a kid. "For tonight," Brangan said, "just get settled. I'll show you your rooms, and we'll figure out the rest tomorrow." He led them upstairs to 4 bedrooms. 3 were empty, with bare floors and plain walls. The 4th, probably his, was closed. "You can take these 2, he said, pointing to the biggest rooms at the end of the hall. "They get good light in the morning." Elena looked inside. The rooms were big and bright, with windows showing the valley, but like the rest of the house, they were empty, waiting for someone to make them alive. "Thank you," she said. "This is more than kind." Brangan shrugged, like kindness made him uneasy. "Just makes sense. No point having empty rooms when people need them." But Elena felt there was more to it. Standing in the quiet hallway, she started to understand Colt Brangan. This wasn't just a man living alone. He'd built a home for a family, then ended. Up, the only one in it. After he left them to settle in, Elena and Maybeth unpacked quietly. The big rooms felt overwhelming compared to their tiny cabin. "Mama," Maybeth said, "do you think he's lonely?" Elena paused, hanging a dress in the wardrobe. The question had been in her mind, too, watching Brangan's careful ways. "I think he might be, sweetheart. Sometimes people build walls to protect themselves from hurt, like we did after Papa died." Maybeth nodded, thinking hard. "Do you think we could help him, like he's helping us?" Elena looked at her daughter, amazed by her kind heart and how she understood people. "I think," she said, "we might all help each other." That night, Elena lay in her new bed, hearing the strange sounds of the ranch. Through her window, the stars looked brighter than in town. The quiet here wasn't empty. It was full, like life was all around, even if you couldn't see it. She heard Maybeth's soft breathing down the hall and Brangan's restless footsteps somewhere in the house. They were all strangers under one roof, thrown together by chance, but trying to make it work. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and discoveries. But tonight, for the first time in months, Elena fell asleep without worrying about where they'd live or what they'd eat. Whatever came next, they'd face it together in this beautiful, lonely place that might become home. Elena woke to quiet sounds from downstairs. Someone moving like they were used to getting up early. Gray light came through her window, and she heard cows mooing and horses whinnying softly. The ranch was waking up, and she wanted to be part of it, not a burden. She dressed fast in her practical clothes and followed the smell of coffee and bacon to the kitchen. There she found Colt Brangan at the stove, his big frame looking smaller in this homey setting. He wore work clothes, jeans, a cotton shirt, and worn boots. "Morning," he said without turning. "Coffee's fresh if you want some." "Thanks," Elena said, pouring a cup. It was strong and better than anything she'd made in their old cabin. "You're up early." "Ranch doesn't sleep in," Brangan said, flipping bacon. "Cows need tending, horses need feeding. Day starts when it starts." Elena watched him move around the kitchen, quick and practiced like someone used to being alone. She wondered how many mornings he'd cooked for just himself, eating in silence. "Let me help," she said, stepping to the stove. Brangan moved aside and Elena took over the bacon while he mixed pancake batter. They worked quietly together like they were finding a rhythm. It felt close, this morning teamwork. "Mama?" Maybeth's voice came from the doorway. She stood, in her nightgown, hair messy, holding her old doll, Charlotte, with its faded dress and missing eyes. It had been her comfort since Thomas died. "Good morning, sweetheart," Elena said. "Sleep okay?" Maybeth nodded, but her eyes showed she wasn't sure about this new life. "That's a nice doll," Brangan said, his voice calm as he noticed Charlotte. "What's her name?" "Charlotte," Maybeth said softly, hugging the doll. "Papa gave her to me for my 10th birthday. She's old, but I love her." "Old things can be the best," Brangan said seriously. "They've got stories and experiences that make them special. Charlotte looks well-loved." Elena's heart warmed at how kindly he spoke to Maybeth, treating her doll like it mattered. "Want to help with breakfast?" Elena asked. "Mr. Brangan's cooking, but maybe we can take over some kitchen jobs." "I'd like that," Maybeth said, setting Charlotte on a chair and washing her hands. They ate breakfast at the big dining table, which felt fancy and awkward with just the three of them. Elena kept glancing at Brangan, trying to figure out this man who'd become their helper. He ate neatly, but he seemed shy about talking, like eating with others was new to him. "The pancakes are great," Elena said to break the quiet. "My mom's recipe," Brangan said, then looked like he wished he hadn't shared that. "She must have been a good cook," Elena said. "She was good at lots of things," he said, his tone closing the subject. Elena didn't push. After breakfast, Brangan took them outside to learn about the ranch. The morning air was fresh, smelling of grass, cows, and wildflowers. Elena had forgotten how pretty the country could be when you weren't too scared to notice. "First rule," Brangan said as they walked to the barn, "ranch work can be dangerous if you're not careful. Cows are big and can be unpredictable. Horses can kick or bite if they're scared. Even chickens can get mad if you mess with their nests." Maybeth listened hard, like she wanted to prove she could handle it. "What do we do if something's dangerous?" she asked. "Call for help and get safe," Brangan said firmly. "No job here is worth getting hurt. Things can be replaced, people can't." The barn was amazing, clean and full of happy animal sounds. Brangan showed them the horses, explaining their personalities. There was Thunder, but also a sweet mare named Daisy, who nuzzled Maybeth's hand. "She's beautiful," Maybeth said, petting her gently. "She's got a good personality," Brangan said. "Steady and trustworthy. If you want to learn to ride, she'd be a great teacher." "You'd teach me to ride?" Maybeth's eyes lit up, a joy Elena hadn't seen since Thomas died. "If your mom says okay," Brangan said, looking at Elena. "It's a useful skill on a ranch this big." Elena nodded, even though the idea scared her. But she saw how much it meant to Maybeth, and Brangan was right. Riding was practical. Here. They spent the morning exploring the ranch, learning about moving cows, fixing fences, tending crops, and all the daily jobs. Elena saw why Brangan needed help. The ranch was doing well, but it was a lot for one person. "I've got 2 helpers during busy times," Brangen said as they looked at cows grazing. "Good guys, but they've got their own places. Most of the time, it's just me." "That must be tiring," Elena said. Brangen shrugged. "Keeps me busy." Again, Elena heard that loneliness in his voice, like he chose to be alone to protect himself from some old pain. As they walked back for lunch, Maybeth skipped ahead, excited about her new home. Elena watched her, amazed at how quickly kids bounce back. "She's a good girl," Brangen said quietly, watching Maybeth. "She is," Elena said. "She's been through a lot, but she's stronger than I sometimes think." "Loss can make people stronger if they let it," Brangen said. "Or it can make them bitter." Elena glanced at him, wondering if he was talking about himself. That afternoon, while Brangen worked with the cows, Elena and Maybeth started making the ranch house feel like a home. They rearranged the kitchen to make cooking easier and added small touches to make it cozy. Elena noticed the empty picture frame again while dusting. It felt sad, like it was waiting for someone who'd never come. "Mama," Maybeth said, "why does Mr. Brangen live here alone?" Elena paused. "I don't know, sweetheart. Sometimes people need to be alone to heal, like we did after Papa died." Maybeth thought about it. "Do you think he's done being alone now?" Elena smiled at her daughter's wisdom. "I don't know, but maybe we can help him figure it out." That night at dinner, Elena noticed Brangen seemed a bit more relaxed, more willing to talk. When Maybeth asked about the cows, he explained everything with excitement, showing he loved his work. "You really love this place?" Elena said. "It's a good ranch," he said. "Good land, good water, good grazing. A guy could do worse." But Elena heard more than that. This ranch was his creation, something he built to last in a world that had taken a lot from him. As they got ready for bed, Elena thought about how much had changed in just 2 days. They'd gone from almost losing everything to living in a beautiful ranch house, from fear to maybe something stable. More than that, they were becoming a little team, learning to trust each other, maybe even care for each other. It wasn't the life she'd planned, but as she looked at the stars over the valley, she thought it might be better than what she'd lost. It might be a chance for them all to heal and grow. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new lessons, new discoveries. But tonight, Elena fell asleep to Maybeth's soft breathing and Brangen's restless footsteps, feeling something she hadn't felt in months: hope. 3 weeks into their life at the Broken Star Ranch, Elena was getting the hang of things. Each morning had its own jobs and challenges, but the routine felt good after so much worry. More importantly, she was starting to understand Colt Brangen, how he moved carefully through his days, how he kept himself alone, and how that loneliness seemed to lessen a little each day. She was making bread in the kitchen when she heard voices outside. Brangen's deep voice and Maybeth's lighter one were talking seriously. Through the window, she saw them at the forge near the barn, where Brangen was teaching Maybeth about metalwork. He held the ranch's brand, a broken star, and explained, "See how the metal changes color when it's hot enough? That's when it's ready to shape. Too cold, it won't bend. Too hot, it gets brittle." Maybeth nodded like it was the most important thing she'd ever heard. Over the weeks, she'd followed Brangen around, asking about everything from cows to weather. To Elena's surprise, he answered every question patiently, like her curiosity was something special. "Can I try?" Maybeth asked, reaching for the hammer. "Not yet," Brangen said gently. "You need to learn the fire first. Patience is the most important tool here." Elena smiled, seeing he was teaching Maybeth more than metalwork, how to watch, think, and respect what she was doing. It was the kind of teaching Thomas never had time for, always chasing his next big idea. "Mama's making bread," Maybeth said, spotting Elena at the window. "She says it'll be ready for lunch." Brangen looked up, and Elena's heart skipped when their eyes met. Lately, these moments felt stronger, like something was growing between them. "Your mom's bread is the best I've had in years," Brangen said to Maybeth, but his eyes stayed on Elena. "It makes the whole house smell like home." Elena felt warm at the compliment, though she told herself it was just about her cooking, but the way he said home with a kind of wonder made her heart ache. She turned back to her dough, ignoring her quickening pulse. Over the weeks, she'd started noticing Brangan as more than their helper. His graceful movements, his patience with Maybeth, his quiet skill at everything. It was exciting and scary. It had been so long since she'd thought of herself as anything but a mom and widow. The idea that she could feel this way, that he might see her as more than a burden, was hard to believe. A knock at the door broke her thoughts. Elena wiped her hands and opened it to find an older man, his face lined from years in the sun. "Ma'am," he said, tipping his hat, "I'm Jake Morrison from the Circle M Ranch, looking for Colt Brangan. He's by the forge," Elena said. "I'll get him." But before she could, Brangan's voice came from behind. "Jake, Morrison, what brings you here?" His tone suggested he wasn't thrilled. "Heard you had new folks staying," Morrison said. "Thought I'd say hi and see if they need anything." Elena felt Brangan tense beside her. "They've got everything they need," he said. Morrison's eyes moved between them like he was figuring something out. "I'm sure, just being friendly. Don't see new faces often, especially," he paused, choosing his words, "especially ladies in your situation." "What situation?" Elena asked, her voice sharp. Morrison looked uneasy. "Well, ma'am, word spreads. People know about your husband's debts, how Colt took you in instead of taking your land. Folks talk." Elena's face burned, understanding why Brangan wasn't happy. The town was gossiping about them, making up stories. "They can talk," Brangan said, his voice warning, "but they should know what they're talking about first." Morrison raised his hands. "No offense, Colt. Just saying, some ranchers wonder if you're expanding, maybe needing more help. There are local boys who could use work." Elena saw the real reason for the visit. Morrison wasn't here to be nice. He was checking if Brangan's deal with them was a problem for others. "My ranch is fine," Brangan said calmly. "Mrs. Ward and her daughter are earning their keep. Their business is ours, not anyone else's." "Of course," Morrison said quickly. "Just thought I'd mention it. People get curious when things change." "What changes?" Elena asked, her temper rising. She'd had enough judgment this past year. Morrison looked surprised. "Well, ma'am, it's unusual for a man like Colt to take in strangers, especially a woman and child. People wonder why." The hint in his words made Elena's face burn with anger and embarrassment. People who didn't know them were talking about their private lives. "Our deal is they work for room and board while paying off the debt," Brangan said firmly. "Nothing more. If your neighbors have questions, they can ask me, not send you." Morrison's face reddened. "I wasn't sent, Colt. I came because I care about the community." "Your care is noted," Brangan said, clearly dismissing him. "Anything else?" Morrison tipped his hat to Elena. "Ma'am, if you need anything, the Circle M is here." After he left, Elena and Brangan stood quietly on the porch. Elena felt exposed, like their presence was causing trouble for Brangan. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean for people to think—" "Don't say sorry," Brangan cut in. "You didn't do anything wrong. Jake and his friends can think what they want. It doesn't change anything." But Elena wasn't sure. Their deal, even if innocent, looked odd to others. A woman and child living with an unmarried man was bound to start talk. "Maybe Maybeth and I should go somewhere else," she said quietly. "I don't want to hurt your place with your neighbors." Brangan turned, his pale eyes intense. "Is that what you want? To leave?" The question felt heavy, like it carried more meaning. Elena realized the ranch was starting to feel like home, and leaving would hurt, especially after finding some stability. The morning was cool and clear, with heat building in the sky. Elena got up before dawn, as usual, to make coffee and start breakfast. But today felt different, like something had changed after last night's talk or the way Brangan looked at her when he mentioned his old fiancée. She was at the kitchen window watching the sunrise when she heard footsteps. Brangan appeared, dressed early, his hair wet from washing. "Morning," he said, sounding a bit nervous. "Good morning," Elena replied, turning. "Coffee's ready." Instead of getting coffee, Brangan stayed in the doorway, holding something small in his big hands. "Elena," he said, using her first name for the first time. It sounded special in his deep voice, making her heart flutter. "Yes?" He stepped into the kitchen, moving carefully like he was dealing with something big. He opened his hands, showing her mother's rosary, pearl and silver beads she thought were lost forever. "I found this in your room," he said quietly. "It fell behind the dresser. Thought you might miss it." Elena stared, her throat tight. She'd looked everywhere for that rosary, her mom's most precious thing, passed down through 3 generations. "I thought it was gone," she whispered, taking it from him. Their fingers touched, and she felt a spark, his rough hands gentle. "I was fixing a floorboard," he explained. "It must have rolled there when you unpacked." Elena held the rosary, feeling its comfort. But more than that, she was touched by his thoughtfulness. He could have left it on her dresser, but he brought it to her privately, knowing it was special. "Thank you," she said, meeting his eyes. "This means so much." "I figured," he said. "You go to church every Sunday. Seems like faith matters to you." Elena was surprised he'd noticed her trips to the little church in Coyote Bend. It was a long ride, but she needed that connection to something bigger. "It does matter," she said, "though this year's been tough on my faith. Sometimes I don't get why God lets things happen." Brangen thought for a moment. "My mom used to say God doesn't give us more than we can handle, but he trusts some people with more." "Your mom sounds wise," Elena said. "She was," he said, his face softening. "She'd have liked you. She always said a home needs a woman's touch and kids' laughter." The words felt heavy, like they meant more than he said. Elena noticed his eyes linger on her lips, his shoulders tense, like he was fighting something inside. "Colt," she said softly, using his first name. It felt close, personal, making her heart race. "Elena," he whispered, his eyes showing want and caution, hope and fear. The moment felt fragile, electric, until Maybeth's footsteps on the stairs broke it. They stepped apart, focusing on morning tasks. But Elena felt the air had changed, like something had been acknowledged. "Good morning, Mama." "Good morning, Mr. Brangen," Maybeth said, not noticing the tension. "Good morning, sweetheart," Elena said, her voice a bit shaky. "Sleep well?" "I did, but I had a weird dream," Maybeth said, sitting down. "I dreamed we lived here forever, and you and Mr. Brangen got married, and we were a real family." Elena's face burned, and Brangen stared at his coffee. The silence was loud, full of things they couldn't say. "Dreams are nice," Elena said carefully, "but we can't mix them up with real life." Maybeth looked at them seriously. "Why not? You're both good people, and you care about each other. I see how you look at each other when you think I'm not looking." Elena almost choked, and Brangen's face turned red. Kids could be too smart sometimes, seeing what adults tried to hide. "Maybeth," Elena said gently, "grown-up relationships are complicated. Mr. Brangen's been kind, but that doesn't mean you could love each other." Maybeth interrupted, confused. "I think you already do." The words hit Elena hard, not because they were wrong, but because they were true. She'd fallen in love with Colt Brangen, his quiet strength, his kindness to Maybeth, his respect for her. She loved how he moved gracefully, how he could calm a wild horse or fix a fence with ease, his dry humor and his love for the land. But loving him and acting on it were different things. "Love isn't always enough, sweetheart," Elena said softly. "There are other things, practical stuff, what people think, the past." Brangen looked up, his eyes meeting hers, showing the same mix of longing and fear. "Maybe," he said quietly, "we should just take it one day at a time, see what happens without pushing it." Elena nodded, knowing he was right, even though she wanted more. They were all on shaky ground, building something new from their broken pasts. Breakfast went back to normal, but Elena felt a new awareness between her and Brangen. Every touch, his hand brushing hers, her arm grazing his, felt electric. Later, while working in the garden she'd started, Elena thought about Maybeth's dream and her own feelings. She could picture that life, staying at the ranch, not as workers, but as a family. But that dream needed courage. And after all her losses, Elena had thought she was done taking risks. Now she wondered if playing it safe was worth missing out on happiness. She was deep in thought when she felt someone watching. Brangen was, leaning on the garden fence, his eyes intense. "The garden looks nice," he said, but his voice suggested he wasn't thinking about plants. It's coming along, Elena said, brushing dirt off her hands. The soil's good here. Things grow well when you take care of them. They do, Brangan said, his eyes on her like he meant more than plants. The moment felt full of possibility until hoofbeats interrupted. A rider was coming fast from town, looking serious. As he got closer, Elena saw it was the postmaster from Coyote Bend, his face grim. "Mr. Brangan," he called, stopping his horse. "Got a letter for you from Denver. Man who sent it said it's urgent." Brangan took the letter, frowning, at the strange handwriting. Elena watched his face darken as he read. "What is it?" she asked, stepping closer. Brangan folded the letter, his jaw tight. "It's about your husband," he said quietly. "About how he really died." Elena felt the world spin. The letter seemed dangerous, like it could break the peace they'd built. "What do you mean, how he really died?" she asked, her voice a whisper. Brangan glanced at the postmaster, who was listening closely. "Tom, thanks for bringing this. Tell Marshal Davidson I'll be in touch." The postmaster rode off, leaving Elena and Brangan. With the letter's terrible truth, Elena's legs felt weak, and she sat on the garden bench Brangan had built. "Thomas died in a mining accident," she said, like saying it could make it true. "A cave-in. They found his body 3 days later." Brangan sat beside her, the letter in his hands. His closeness was comforting but scary. "Elena," he said gently, "this letter's from a U.S. Marshal, Frank Morrison, Jake's brother. He's been looking into murders tied to fake mining deals." Elena stared, the words not sinking in. Murders. "Men who got too close to the truth, who asked too many questions," Brangan said, his voice tight. "Thomas was one of them." He unfolded the letter, worn and stained, maybe with blood. "This was sewn into Thomas's coat," he said. "The marshal just got it from the mining company, along with his things they never gave you." Elena's hands shook as she took the letter. It was Thomas's writing, messy, like he was scared. "Elena," it started, "if you're reading this, my worst fears came true. The Prescott Mining Company is a lie. They take money from people like me to fund bad things, gun running, stealing land, even murder. I have proof, but I think they... No, if I die, take this to the law. Trust no one tied to Prescott. Keep Maybeth safe. I love you both, Thomas." Elena read it 3 times, the words not making sense. Thomas wasn't killed by an accident. He was murdered. The debts that pushed her to desperation were tied to his death. "I don't understand," she said. "If he knew he was in danger, why didn't he come home? Why didn't he warn me?" "He thought he could stop them," Brangan said. "Men like him think they're smarter than the people after them." Elena heard an edge in his voice. "You sound like you know this." Brangan looked far away, his eyes heavy with secrets. "I used to be a lawman, Elena, a U.S. Marshal, working all over. I've seen good men get caught up with bad ones. Your husband wasn't the first, and he won't be the last." Elena tried to process this. "You were a marshal?" "Was," he corrected. "I quit 5 years ago, built this ranch to leave that life behind." "Why?" she asked. He paused, like he was choosing how much to say. "I got tired of burying good people. I wanted to build something, not just chase bad guys, and I met a woman who made me choose between my badge and her. I chose wrong." Elena started to understand. The loneliness, the reputation, how he handled Jake Morrison. It all made sense. "That's why you know about debt collecting," she said. "Why people are scared of you. You're not just a collector, you're a former lawman." "Word spreads," Brangan said. "People know I wore a badge, even if they don't know why I stopped." Elena's mind raced. "The letter from Marshal Morrison, he's asking for your help, isn't he?" Brangan nodded, looking grim. "The Prescott Company works under different names across 3 areas. They trick men like Thomas, take their money, then kill anyone who gets suspicious. Frank thinks they're planning something big before disappearing. And he wants you to help catch them," Elena said. "He wants me to come out of retirement," Brangan said, hesitating. "And he thinks they know about you and Maybeth. They might be coming here." Elena felt cold fear. "Coming here? Why?" "Because of Thomas's letter," he said. "They can't be sure he didn't tell you something. You're a loose end they need to tie up." Elena stood, panic rising. "Maybeth!" Where is she? With the horses, Brangan said, following her. Elena, wait. We need a plan. But Elena was already running to the barn, her mind full of awful thoughts. She'd thought they were safe, that their troubles were over. Instead, she'd brought danger to their new home. She found Maybeth in Thunder's stall, brushing his coat carefully, like Brangan taught her. Seeing her daughter safe made Elena weak with relief. Mama? Maybeth looked worried. You look scared. Elena hugged her tightly. Listen carefully, sweetheart. We might need to leave for a bit, until things are safe. Leave? Maybeth pulled back, alarmed. Why? What's wrong? Brangan appeared in the barn doorway, his big frame outlined by the light. Elena saw tension in him, his hand near where she now guessed he kept a hidden gun. Tell her the truth, he said. She deserves to know. Elena looked at her daughter and Brangan, knowing he was right. Maybeth was old enough to understand danger. Your dad didn't die in an accident, Elena said slowly. He was killed by bad men who stole money from people like him. Now they might be coming for us. Maybeth thought hard, her face serious. Because Papa found out what they were doing? Yes, Elena said. And Mr. Brangan will protect us. She looked at Brangan, seeing his determination. Whatever his past, she trusted him to keep them safe. Yes, Brangan said simply. I will. Then we're not leaving, Maybeth said firmly, with the loyalty that had carried them through tough times. This is our home now. We don't run from bad people. We face them. Elena wanted to argue, to say running was safer, but looking at Maybeth's brave face and Brangan's steady eyes, she knew running wouldn't help. These men would keep coming until stopped. What do we do? She asked Brangan. He thought. For a moment, his lawman's mind working. We prepare, he said. We make this ranch a fortress. When they come, we end this for good. Elena felt a chill at his voice's promise. The kind man teaching her daughter was gone, replaced by someone tougher, ready to fight, someone who'd worn a badge and faced danger before, someone who'd do anything to protect his family. That word, family, hit Elena. Somewhere along the way, that's what they'd become, not by blood, but by choosing to stand together. In the barn, united, Elena felt sure that whatever came, they'd face it as a family. The change started right away. Within hours of learning about Thomas's murder, the peaceful ranch turned into something else. Elena watched, nervous but amazed, as Brangan became the lawman he'd once been. First, he got a locked cabinet from his room, which Elena thought held papers. Instead, it held guns, rifles, pistols, and ammunition, all neatly kept, showing a different life. Papa had a rifle, Maybeth said, staring at the weapons with wide eyes. But nothing like this. These aren't for hunting deer, Brangan said, his voice calm like when he taught her ranch work. They're for a different job. Elena felt cold watching him check the guns with skill. This was a new side of him. Serious, professional, dangerous. The man who taught Maybeth about cows was gone, replaced by someone ready for battle. How many are coming? She asked. Brangan checked the letter. Frank says at least 4, maybe 6. They're hired men, good with guns but not great at planning. They count on scaring people. And you think you can handle 6 armed men alone? Elena asked. Brangan looked up, his face both comforting and scary. I've handled worse. His certainty was strong, but Elena wondered about his past, how many fights, how many dangers he'd faced. The kind man she loved was still there, but beneath was something hard, built by tough times. What do you need us to do? She asked. Learn to shoot, he said. Both of you. If something happens to me, you need to protect yourselves. Elena's stomach twisted. She'd never touched a gun, never thought she could hurt anyone. But looking at Maybeth, she knew she'd do anything to keep her safe. They spent the afternoon on a ridge behind the house, where Brangan set up targets. He taught them the basics, how to hold a pistol, aim and pull the trigger smoothly. Shooting's like anything important, he told Maybeth, guiding her hands. It takes patience, focus, and respect for the tool. Elena watched Maybeth learn with the same focus she gave everything Brangan taught. It was amazing but sad. No kid should have to learn this. When it was Elena's turn, the pistol felt heavy with its power but light with the safety it offered. Remember, Brangan said, standing close as he fixed her stance. This isn't about being a fighter. It's about surviving. If someone threatens you or Maybeth, don't wait. Protect your family. That word, family, hung between them. Elena realized Brangan saw them as his own, not just people he was helping. It made her heart race with feelings beyond fear. By evening, Elena and Maybeth could hit their targets decently, not perfect, but enough to have a chance. As they cleaned the guns in the kitchen, Brangan explained his plan. They'll come at night, try to surround the house and force us out. The house is strong, stone base, thick logs, good views from the windows. If we're smart, we can make them come to us. What if they burn the house? Elena asked. They won't, Brangan said confidently. They need to be sure you're dead and get any proof Thomas left. Fire's too risky for them. Elena shivered at his calm talk of their possible murder, but listened, knowing their enemy's plans might save them. When will they come? Maybeth asked. Soon, Brangan said. The letter's 5 days old. If they left Denver after finding Thomas's things, they could be here tomorrow night. That timeline scared Elena. Less than a day to prepare for a fight that could mean life or death. At dinner, Elena studied Brangan's face in the lamplight. His usual calm was gone, replaced by a sharp focus, like a man ready for war. But she could still see the kind man who'd saved them, who gave them a home. Colt, she said, using his name on purpose. Before this happens, I need to tell you something. He looked up, alert. What? Elena's cheeks warmed, but she kept going. If they didn't survive, she didn't want to leave things unsaid. I love you, she said simply. I know it makes things messy. It's not what we planned, but I needed you to know. These weeks here have been the happiest since Thomas died. You've given us more than a place to stay. You've given us hope. Brangan froze, his fork halfway to his mouth. His face showed surprise, joy, fear, and maybe relief. Elena, he said, his voice rough. You don't have to say anything, she cut in gently. I just wanted you to know. But Brangan put down his fork and took her hand, his big palm warm around her fingers. I love you too, he said quietly. Both of you. You've brought life to this place, made it a home, not just a house. I was dying here alone from loneliness and old pain. You saved me as much as I saved you. Elena's eyes teared up. Maybeth beamed across the table, thrilled at what she'd seen growing. So, we're really a family? She asked, full of hope. If we get through tomorrow, Brangan said honestly, then yes, we'll make it official. Marriage, adoption, everything, but first, we face what's coming. Elena squeezed his hand, feeling his strength. We will. We have to. That night, as they prepared for the fight, Elena thought about their strange journey. 6 weeks ago, she'd offered her daughter to a stranger to pay a debt. Now, she was ready to fight for her life with the man she loved, protecting their home. The irony was clear. She'd run from Thomas's mistakes right into the danger that killed him. But she'd also found love, family, and hope. As she checked her pistol, Elena promised herself she'd fight for this life, for her daughter, and for the man who'd saved them. She wouldn't let Thomas's killers destroy her new family. The ranch was quiet as they waited for dawn and whatever it brought. Elena lay in bed, hearing the wind, the cows, the house settling. Tomorrow might bring gunfire and fear, but tonight, they were a family ready to defend their home. That was worth fighting for, maybe even dying for. Elena fell asleep with her pistol nearby, and Colt steady breathing down the hall. Whatever came, they'd face it together. They'd fight for their life and love, and hopefully, they'd see the dawn again, free and safe. Elena woke to a sound she'd never forget. The ranch bell by the barn, ringing 3 times, then pausing, then 3 more. It was the signal that danger was here. She dressed and armed herself fast, her hands steady despite her fear. Down the hall, Maybeth moved with the same quiet speed they'd practiced. They were ready as they could be. Elena found Brangan at the front window, rifle ready, looking into the dark. His face was calm but tense. How many? She whispered. 5 I can see, he said, not looking away. Maybe more. They're being careful, trying to surround us before they attack. Elena went to the side window, watching the barn and east side. At first, she saw only shadows, then a figure moving sneaky between buildings. "There," she said, pointing. Brangan nodded grimly. "They're pros, not the kind to mess up or give up." Maybeth appeared, holding her pistol. Carefully, steady despite her age. It made Elena proud and heartbroken. No kid should face this. "What now?" Maybeth asked. "We wait," Brangan said. "Let them move first. The house gives us cover and good shooting spots. Stay calm, stick to the plan, and we're in control." Elena tried to trust his confidence, but her heart raced as she saw more figures in the dark. These men killed her husband and were here to finish the job. The thought of what they'd do to Maybeth made her grip her gun tighter. A rough voice called from outside, used to giving orders. "Mrs. Ward, we know you're in there. We just want to talk about your husband's business." Elena almost laughed bitterly. They'd murdered Thomas and now wanted to talk. Brangan signaled for quiet, watching carefully. "Mrs. Ward," the voice called again, closer. "We're not leaving. Come out nicely and no one else gets hurt." "No one else," Elena whispered angrily. "As if they haven't already." "Shh," Brangan said. "Let them talk. It tells us where they are and what they want." Elena held back, trying to think smart, not emotional. He was right. Their words gave away their plans. "We know the marshal contacted you," the voice said. "We know about the letter. Give us any papers your husband left and we'll go." Elena looked at Brangan. They didn't know Thomas's letter was with the law. They thought she had something that could get them in trouble. "5 minutes, Mrs. Ward," the voice called. "Then we come in." The threat felt like a death sentence. Elena hugged Maybeth closer, knowing the next few minutes would decide their fate. Brangan checked other windows. "They're in place," he said quietly. "2 in front, 2 in back, 1 on the side, classic trap move." "Can we hold them off?" Elena asked. "We're about to find out." The silence stretched, feeling like hours. Elena counted her heartbeats, listening for any sign of attack. Then she heard soft footsteps on the porch, someone trying to be sneaky. Her breath stopped as the attack began. "Get ready," Brangan whispered, raising his rifle. The front door burst open with a crash that shook the house. Elena was ready, but the violence froze her heart. Dark figures rushed in, turning their home into a battlefield. Brangan's rifle fired first, loud in the small space. One man fell, his gun sliding across the floor. Elena forced herself to move, to think. "Kitchen!" Brangan shouted. "Fall back to the kitchen!" Elena grabbed Maybeth's hand and ran, bullets hitting the walls around them. Behind, Brangan's shots were steady and precise. "Mama, I'm scared," Maybeth whispered, pale but brave. "I know, sweetheart," Elena said, checking her gun with shaky hands. "Just remember, breathe, aim, squeeze gently." Glass broke at the back of the house, more men coming through windows. Elena realized they were outnumbered, even with Brangan's skill. "Elena," Brangan called urgently. "Kitchen window, 2 coming around the side." Elena moved to the window, seeing 2 men in her garden, moving carefully but sure of themselves. She raised her pistol, trying to recall Brangan's lessons. Her first shot missed, breaking glass. "Breathe, Mama," Maybeth said quietly. Elena took a deep breath and shot again, hitting one man in the shoulder. Not deadly, but it slowed him. The second man aimed at the window, and Elena pulled Maybeth away just as bullets broke more glass. From the main room, she heard fighting, gunshots, breaking furniture, shouts. She worried for Brangan, but focused on Maybeth. "Mrs. Ward?" a rough voice called, now inside. "This can end easy or hard. Your choice." Elena looked around. The kitchen, trapped and running out of bullets and time. Then she saw the ranch bell through the broken window. She remembered Brangan's signal. 3 rings for danger, 4 for help. She grabbed the iron poker from the stove and threw it at the bell with all her strength. It hit with a loud clang 4 times, sending their call for help into the night. "What are you doing?" Maybeth whispered. "Hoping," Elena said, reloading her gun with trembling hands. The gunfire from the main room stopped, and Elena's stomach dropped. Either Brangan had won, or she couldn't think it. "Colt," she called softly. "I'm here," he answered, his voice tired but strong. 2 down, but more outside. Relief flooded her. He was alive, still fighting. But their situation was bad. The house was wrecked, bullets were low, and the enemy wasn't quitting. Elena prayed to the God her rosary stood for, hoping for a miracle. Then she heard it. Hoofbeats, many riders coming fast. The bell had worked. Help was here. But would it come in time? The hoofbeats grew louder, and Elena heard shouts outside, the attackers realizing they were trapped. Through the window, she saw gunfire as they fought the newcomers. "Federal marshals!" a voice shouted. "Drop your weapons!" Elena's hope surged, nearly knocking her over. Marshal Morrison was here, and he brought help. "Elena," Brangan called, "stay down. It's not over." She knew he was right. These men wouldn't give up easily. A figure appeared in the kitchen doorway, not Brangan, but an attacker, angry and desperate. Elena didn't think. She shot, hitting him in the chest, sending him back. "Mama," Maybeth gasped, staring. Elena looked at her daughter calmly. "I protected our family," she said. "Sometimes that's what love means." Maybeth nodded, understanding something sad about the world. The fight outside grew louder, but Elena could tell the marshals were winning. They had more men and better positions. "Mrs. Ward," the rough voice called, now desperate. "I've got something of yours." Elena peeked into the main room and saw her worst fear. One attacker holding Brangan at gunpoint, using him as a shield. "Let him go," she called, her voice steady despite her terror. "Can't do that," the man said, "but I'll trade. Bring any papers your husband left and he lives." Elena looked at Brangan, his eyes telling her not to give in. But she'd lost one husband. She wouldn't lose another. She pulled out Thomas's blood-stained letter, the proof of the conspiracy. "Here," she said, stepping forward. "This is what you want." The man's eyes gleamed. "Bring it slow." Elena walked toward him, every step heavy, knowing the gun was aimed at Brangan. "That's far enough," the man said. "Toss it." Elena looked at Brangan, seeing love and a warning in his eyes. He glanced at the window, and she understood. Instead of tossing the letter to the man, she threw it toward the broken window. The breeze caught it, carrying it outside. The man cursed, turning slightly, loosening his hold on Brangan. That was enough. Brangan spun, hitting the man's arm, knocking the gun away. They fought on the floor, too close for Elena to shoot. She watched, terrified, as the man she loved battled a killer with nothing to lose. The fight felt endless, but was quick. Brangan won, standing slowly, bloodied but alive. "It's over," he said, looking around the wrecked room. Outside, the gunfire stopped. Elena heard Marshal Morrison giving orders, men being arrested. Through the window, the sunrise painted the sky gold and pink. They'd survived. Elena ran to Brangan, hugging him despite his wounds. He held her tight, shaking from how close they'd come to dying. "The letter," Elena said, remembering. "I threw it outside." "I have it," a voice said. "Marshal." Frank Morrison stood in the doorway, holding the stained letter. He was tall, with gray hair and tired eyes. "One of my men grabbed it from the yard." Elena relaxed. The proof was safe. Thomas's killers would face justice. "Mrs. Ward," Morrison said, "I'm sorry, we should have been faster." "You came when it counted," Elena said. Morrison looked at the wrecked room. "This was your home," he said sadly. "It still is," Brangan said, holding Elena closer. "A home's about the people, not the building." Elena looked at him, seeing the man she loved, who'd risked everything for them. Broken things could be fixed, but their love, their family, that was priceless. "Mama," Maybeth said from the kitchen doorway, "are we safe now?" Morrison nodded. "The Prescott group is done, young lady. We've got them all. They'll face charges for murder and fraud. Your dad's death will be avenged." Elena felt both satisfied and sad. Justice for Thomas mattered, but it couldn't. Bring him back. What mattered was the future with Maybeth and Brangan. "Marshal," Brangan said, "you'll need our statements?" "Eventually," Morrison said, "but rest first. You've been through a lot." As the marshal left, Elena stood with her family in their damaged home. She felt empty, like surviving had taken all her energy. "Elena," Brangan said softly, "you okay?" She looked around the room where they'd shared meals and talks. The damage felt like a sign, the old life gone, but the foundation strong. I will be, she said. We all will. She pulled out her mom's rosary, praying silently with gratitude. They'd faced darkness and come out alive. Now they had to learn to live with what they'd done, heal, and trust the peace they'd fought for. Looking at Brangan and Maybeth, Elena knew they'd face any challenges together. They were a family made stronger by surviving the worst. The sun filled the room with light. A new day, a new start, a new chance at happiness. Elena Ward, soon to be Elena Brangan, was ready for whatever came next. 6 months later, Elena stood on the ranch house porch, watching the sunset over the valley that was truly her home. The house showed no signs of the fight. Colt had fixed it with care, making it a labor of love that healed more than wood and glass. Laughter came from the barn, where Maybeth was teaching her new dad how to groom Thunder. Elena smiled at their easy bond, amazed at how naturally they'd become daughter and father. The adoption papers were signed last week, making official what they'd felt for months. Mrs. Brangan, Colt said behind her, bringing 2 cups of coffee and looking happy from a day's work. Mr. Brangan? Elena teased, taking the coffee and scooting over on the porch swing he'd built for their wedding. The small ceremony was at the Coyote Bend church, where Elena had prayed during tough times. Marshall Morrison gave her away, and Maybeth was her maid of honor, smiling the whole time. The townsfolk who'd gossiped now called them one of the best couples around. Good day? Elena asked, leaning against Colt. Very good, he said, his arm around her. The new calves are doing great. The south fence is done, and I got a letter from Frank Morrison with news. What news? Elena asked. The Prescott men were convicted, he said. Life in prison for the murders, including Thomas's. The leaders won't ever get out. Elena felt relief, satisfaction, and closure. Thomas could rest, and she could let go of her grief and anger. Good, she said. Thomas can rest now. They sat quietly, listening to the ranch settle. This peace was deeper than what Elena had with Thomas, built on shared struggles, not just dreams. Colt, she said, do you ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't come for that debt? If we hadn't met? He thought for a moment. I'd have stayed alone here, getting old and bitter, not knowing what I missed. You and Maybeth would have survived. You're tough, but we wouldn't have this. He gestured to their home. No, Elena agreed. We wouldn't have this. Maybeth's singing came from the barn, sweet and hopeful. She's happy, Elena said, watching her daughter. She's home, Colt said gently. We all are. Elena pulled out their new family photo taken last week. They stood together in front of the house, Colt strong and proud, Elena happy in her best dress, Maybeth with her dad's steady eyes and her mom's smile. It would replace the empty frame on the mantel, filling it with the family Colt dreamed of and Elena thought she'd never have again. I love you, she said, still amazed at her second chance. I love you too, Colt said, kissing her head. Both of you, more than I thought I could. As stars appeared, Elena thought about their journey. She'd started as a desperate widow, offering her daughter to pay a debt, then fought killers, and now was a wife and mom again. The path was hard, full of loss and fear, but it led here, to peace, love, and belonging. It showed family was about choosing to stand together. Tomorrow would bring new tasks, joys, and challenges. The ranch would grow, Maybeth would become a remarkable woman, and Elena and Colt would build their life day by day. But tonight, on their porch, with Maybeth singing and stars overhead, Elena felt complete. This was what Thomas died trying to give, not just money, but love and safety. The ranch, once lonely, was now alive. Empty rooms were now Maybeth's, filled with flowers and books, and Elena's sewing room with curtains and quilts. Even the bunkhouse was open, with 2 new workers for the growing ranch. Jake Morrison's warnings were wrong. The neighbors loved the Brangan family. Mama! Papa! Maybeth called, using Colt's new name. Come see what Thunder learned. Elena and Colt smiled, holding hands as they walked to the barn. Maybeth showed Thunder's new trick, following hand signals with grace. Amazing, Colt said, proud. You've got a gift, daughter. Thunder trusts you. Elena watched, her heart full. This was family, imperfect people choosing to love through storms. Maybeth had a dad who saw her potential and taught her patiently. As they walked back, Elena saw movement on the ridge and tensed, fearing danger. But it was just deer drinking from the stream. Wildlife was back, sensing the ranch was peaceful again. "Look," Elena said, pointing. They stood together, three. People who found each other against all odds, watching the deer under the stars. It was perfect, worth all the struggle. Later, after Maybeth went to bed with a poetry book Colt gave her for her 15th birthday, Elena and Colt planned the ranch's future in their bedroom. Elena's hand rested on her stomach, where a new baby was growing, a secret they kept for now, too, precious to share yet. "Will she be happy about a sibling?" Elena asked. "Worried or just want to hear it'll be okay?" Colt teased gently. "Both," Elena admitted. He pulled her close, his hand over hers. "She'll be thrilled. She's been hinting about a bigger family. She'll love being the wise big sister." Elena smiled, picturing Maybeth teaching their future kids about ranch life and love. The thought of their love reaching forward filled her with wonder. "We'll need a bigger table," she said, thinking of family dinners with more voices and love. "We'll build what we need," Colt said confidently, "room by room as our family grows." Elena imagined it. Birthdays, holidays, kids playing and growing. It seemed almost too good, but she'd learned to trust happiness. As she fell asleep, her